G'day and welcome back to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I'm back, baby. We're talking Bogs and Flogs. We're talking trade targets. We're talking Twitter questions. Let's go!
She's done it from nowhere. Hoisted the goal from inside the centre. Sheed from the boundary. Dusty. Petty. Petrarca. Oh, wow. How good is that? The legend becomes immortal.
G'day and welcome again to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I am your host, Mitch Casey, the one who's here each and every week. I'm joined once again by my good friend and co-host of the show, Luke Rogerson. Mate, it's good to have you back.
It's good to be back.
Yes.
I've missed a week, so I wanted to do the intro, just wet me whistle and just get back into it.
Yeah,
so it's good to be back.
well, first of all, before we get on to the show, a lot of the people missed you last week, but first of all, we're just going to say congratulations, the baby girl.
Yeah, you can call me daddy now, mate.
Yeah.
And it won't be weird.
Yeah, you've been practicing your dad jokes for all season long, it feels like, at the moment. And
Yeah.
finally...
Now I'm qualified.
Now you've gone from apprentice to qualified. You know,
Yeah.
just like I've got the captain pick qualification, you've got the dad joke qualification as well.
Hopefully,
congrats, mate.
Thank you. Hopefully, it levels up some of my dad jokes. But I have a little story for people out there who have been following along. But last Tuesday, little daughter. Sounds weird to say daughter, but little daughter was born.
Yes.
Anyway, Brookie, my lovely partner, she was an absolute battler. She got stuck in, and anyway, she's mid-labour. She's going hammer and tong, and she's just pushing her little heart out, and she gives it a "Let's go" in the middle of labour. You could have knocked me over with a leaf. She's going absolute flat strap, and she's giving it a let. That's
The
how
Ball Boys were in there. They were in the room.
Mate,
you know.
that's how in the psyche you are. Is we've got ladies in labour saying "Let's go." So.
All right. Well, the Ball Boys, we stretch, all across the different avenues of the zeitgeist of people's minds. So
That wasn't even your challenge word.
no, yeah, we didn't even do that.
No, we
I've
didn't.
got a good one for you today. But let's head over and start to talk about our favourite segment to kick off the show.
And the winner of the Norm Smith medal.
You're an embarrassment to what you do, mate. You're an embarrassment.
Bogs and Flogs, week 17, round 17.
Yeah.
I've been friendly these last couple of weeks, so I'm giving myself the Flogs. And first week back, I'll get you started off by being the nice guy this
Thank
week.
you, mate. I'll be the nice guy. So we had the Tigers taking on Sydney in the first game of the week, and this is becoming a hard watch for you because Errol Goulden just keeps getting it done, and he's a bloke that
So he's your best on ground?
He's my best on ground. You chose to part ways with him a few weeks back, and initially it didn't seem like a terrible call, and I still don't think it's a terrible call, but I think you're going to have to get him back, aren't
I think
you?
the logic I still stand by. The outcome that has happened, I think retrospectively, I'll call it a flop. I'll eat my, I'm not too proud to say that it probably, with hindsight, was maybe a mistake.
Had you traded in Tom Mitchell instead of DeGoey, it could have been a bit better, but...
Yeah, I mean, look, I traded him out when he was priced at 116, and that was, what round are we in now, 17? That was probably about 5 rounds ago, and in his last 5 rounds, he is now averaging 118. So he's actually doing better than what I thought he was going to be going and priced at. So, look, he's hurt me. And for that reason, he's the flog as well for this game. Because,
he's done the double.
Come on, Errol. Like, what are you doing, mate? It's like, no CBAs, pure winger. The man is just as thirsty as they come. He doesn't sit on the bench. He just goes and goes and goes all game. So just for me and the 9 other people in the top 1,000 that don't have him, he is the flog because we can't move up because of it.
It's just as enjoyable watching you watch Sydney games as it is watching the footy these days, watching you just pull your hair out. But now
Did it to myself.
on Friday night, we moved on to the Doggies and the Pies, and there were a couple of players that scored well in this game, but I thought if there's anyone who's picked up Caleb Daniel in the last few weeks, I think they'd be very, very happy with themselves, and they would have been happy again on the weekend. So, Caleb, you're getting it done in there at the moment. And if you're owned by some people, you're quite poddish as well.
Yes, he is. He's very poddish, and he's playing back. He's playing midfield. He's doing wing roles. He's doing everything. So he just does whatever Bevo wants him to do, and seems to score most weeks pretty well. So yes, he is doing a good job. My flog for this game is Bailey Smith. Just for our reputation's sake, because
Don't bring it up. People have forgotten.
I can't believe that we were in on this guy in the preseason, but he has looked a shadow of himself these last couple of weeks. The role has been completely gone for most of this season, and
Completely devoid of confidence.
I think the confidence is gone too now. Yeah.
You know what I think about him is he would just be the prime player that if he got traded for some reason,
change of scenery,
you'd be all over him, wouldn't you? And his price would be way down.
He's going to be very cheap next year. He's probably still going to be a Ford eligible player, so it is probably going to be someone we'll have another conversation about. But like, if say he does these kind of things for the rest of the season, like how do you go and pick a player like that? It's going to be tough to sort of have that numbers-based evidence to pick him if the back half season looks like this, but. We know we can do it. He has put up some hundreds this season, but the role is just not there. The confidence is not there. And Bailey Smith just making us look like fools at the start of the season.
Absolutely. And now, Saturday afternoon, the Eagles travelled up to the Gabatoir. And a lot of people, or a few people anyway, either had the VC or the C on this man, and that's Lockie Neal for the Bog there. Yes. He did a bit of waxing in that game, and he got to a very nice little mid-120 score that you'd be very happy to take as either a captain or a vice captain. Yeah,
he was number 2 on the Ball Boys Big Boys, so did the boys proud there and came good. Should have backed him in myself when I decided not to take that, but we'll talk about that. But did well, and obviously the West Coast matchup is continuing to provide us 120 plus scores. Not too much floggish behaviour in this game. I've given it to David Robertson just because some people out there might have been crossing their fingers for a good score against West Coast as like a rookie loop option potentially with Sheldrick not working, and dished up a sub 60 score. So not good enough, Robbo, but again, not too much floggish behaviour in this game.
Now, GWS taking on Hawthorn, and there was some interesting stuff to come from this game, and I know you talk about it when you talk about your flog, but one of the very, very impressive things, a lot of people would have made that move Dunkley straight across to Cogs this week, and if you did, you copped his highest score of the year. A 137, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah, something like that, 135 or in that mid-130s range. It was
impressive.
And the knock on Cogs was he hasn't had much of a ceiling this year. And I did flag, I think, a few times in our podcast and also when I jumped on with the Fanatics guys that just because he hasn't had ceiling games doesn't mean he won't pop one or two or a few down the stretch of the season because he's got the role.
Yep.
He's in there high CBAs a lot of the times, and he just took all the points in the Giants midfield for that game. So...
Yeah, very impressive.
Flog for this one, I'm going to give it to another just shockingly bad performance. Josh Kelly. He's not super highly owned, but I just have to shout out this guy. Scored 30 points. Now, he was getting tagged. He was getting clamped by Finn McGuinness, but
in his back pocket.
6 touches, no marks, 3 tackles, 30 points. 30. Like, that is
for a
absolutely disgusting. He's one of the best players in the comp. You can't tell me that he is going under 10 touches for a game. Tag or no tag.
Yeah, that's it for a guy of his quality. I didn't watch the game closely, but you'd expect if a guy's getting tagged that hard that his teammates would have gone over and put a little bit of body on McGuinness to try and get him free. Or, but that's pretty rough from Jelly.
Yeah, 1% owned in the top 1,000. If you are a coach in the top 1,000 with a Josh Kelly, commiserations to you, but let us know in the comments. So love to see those people out there battling. Hopefully he can reward you next week and turn it around. But
now a fantasy relevant game on Saturday night saw St Kilda take on the D's, and I think it'd be the first time this year, but Jack Steele.
Yes.
Is he back?
Is he back? Well, I think he has to be. With a score like this, he kicked a goal, got lots of marks.
Looking at him
time on ground was up.
I feel like he passed the eye test.
Yeah. Did you watch much of this game?
Yeah, I was sort of flicking between the two games.
Yeah.
And it felt to me, so he's double-digit tackles, which is always something that I think we like to measure him on. That's his intensity at the contest. And then he just looked like he was moving out of stoppage a little bit cleaner. Whether it's a one-off, I don't know. But for those people that have been putting up with some pain, I think they would have been really, really happy with that.
I will say that Melbourne have been giving up a lot of points recently, and especially with, we'll talk about his role later, but Petrarca playing less time in the midfield. I think that Melbourne's mids were particularly soft in this matchup in terms of giving away a lot of points fantasy-wise. So little flag on that one there, but yeah, obviously you can't ask for much more than a 140 score from Steele. Flog, I'm going to give it to Simon Goodwin because of the flicking around of the magnets. And with the hair, Fritsch out, he's put Petrarca forward for the most he has the entire season. And just when a lot of people are starting to trade into him, when he's been looking great the last couple of weeks, obviously no Oliver. And no Oliver, now he's playing more forward, go figure. So just a little bit more of a headache than players who traded into him would have wanted to have.
Even though he's still turned up, you get that little pit in your stomach, don't you, when you're premium player.
I think he kicked 3 or 4 goals.
He did to get to that. So you get that little feeling in your tummy where you're like,
4 goals.
I got away with one this week. But in that role...
Yeah, 4 goals and he only got 104. 4 goals with Petrarca. Normally you think that's a 140.
Yeah,
so
yep, correct.
Yes, something to definitely pay attention to. And Simon Goodwin just, flog for that kind of question-raising behaviour.
Well, you're potting the coaches here because over at Port Adelaide Gold Coast, you've got your floggers Stewie Jew. What's going on there?
Yeah, Stewie Jew, I don't know, man. Something about Stewie Jew just rubs me the wrong way. I feel like he's Bevo's trainee or something like that.
Fat shame him, mate. That's terrible.
I'll just say that. Jesus. But no, just the fact that, you've got players like Tuke Miller, who's, playing forward prominently for this game. You've got Swallow still getting all those CBAs when I don't know what he's doing. Bailey Humphrey's back in the CBAs when he should have been there the whole time. Lockie Weller pops in there for a single CBA. That just seems really weird. Just can't get a read on his rotation and the roles for a lot of those outside players. But the one guy who does seem to sort of be in his good books is our Bog for this game, Noah Anderson. Now, he's top scored with 104 in this game, so it's nothing to write home about.
That, for me, there's no Bog in this game. Top score of 104, don't worry about it.
But I will say that Port Adelaide are the hard matchup. So when I traded in Noah Anderson, this was always the matchup that I sort of went, I'll circle in a little 85, 90 sort of score him. But for him to still get, the highest score of the game, 29 disposals, still get his 104, I'm pretty happy with that as an owner, and he has a better run coming up after this game. So I'm feeling more confident in Noah Anderson than I was a couple of weeks ago when he was out on that wing. Yeah,
especially the week that I traded into him when I could have gone Crouch as well. What Crouch has sort of done in the last 4 weeks, I've obviously...
It's kind of balanced out.
That's it. I think Anderson's working hard to make me not completely regret that one.
He's more unique as well, so hopefully he keeps getting it done.
Correct, Amundo. Sunday times, Geelong taking on North Melbourne. Stewart saved this one a little bit. When I looked over, I thought, geez, that's going to be a poor one. I think mid-70s, and then I looked back.
I think he got hit by Roy's rocket.
Yes, I did see that on Twitter. So, Roy, keep doing God's work with those rockets, mate, especially when they're players in my team. But he and I wanted a little shout-out for... old Jerry there.
Your boy, the round 1, Tristan Jerry.
The round 1 trade out after the injury, but he's back and he's gone 110.
So this justifies your pick here a little bit. It's sort of a bit of vindication.
Well, he was on track for 150 before he went down in that first game.
And he's got a 110, but he's averaging 135.
I mean, I think Selby made the same pick in Supercoach. So if you make the same pick as the great man, then you must be onto something, right?
You can already just do some of these, even if it is an injury.
The prodigy.
Flog behaviour. Now, we don't normally give it to rookies, but this man is no normal rookie. Harry Sheasel, and again, I probably could give it to his coach as well because I didn't watch this game, but a lot of people, I've seen reports of Harry Sheasel playing some forward time. His heat map suggests that he's still a little bit in the back line, so he might have been sort of jumping between a couple of different positions, but obviously very poor score on the weekend. I think, was it 50-something?
Yeah, it was
and some people might have actually traded into him with the news that Zeeble was the sub. Zeeble ended up coming on early anyway with an injury, which I think was an ACL for, I can't remember who it was, but yeah, so his role a little bit all over the shop as well, 52, and he's coming up against Hawthorn. Is there a tag coming? I'm not sure, but just not good enough. At this time of the year, we can't be having those kind of scores on our ground.
Agreed. Essendon and Adelaide, this was a fun watch. So this was Brooke and I got back from the hospital, and we thought I will invite Ellie and Mitch over to watch some footy because it was Adelaide, and we know that we've got the big guys at Adelaide playing there with Keezy as well. And think Dawson featured in the top 3 of your big boys, I think, or
he was number 6, but
Okay.
there was my top 5 was close to being top 6.
Anyway, you did a little bit of cartwheeling and ended up putting the C on Laird. And
I try to be tricky.
For anyone who watched this game, the only thing stopping Mitch from throwing something at my TV was basically my newborn daughter sitting next to him on the couch.
She was doing a very good job of keeping me from just exploding.
And Ellie's sitting there going, it's okay. And you're
oh,
no. And anyway, you talk through it.
Well, anyway, just the amount of times, and there was 2 instances in this game specifically, which I nearly, like I said, threw something at the TV, where a teammate's kicked him the ball, and it's easy as +6 as you like, and they've just overshot it, and it's gone straight over his head. And it's just those moments like that frustrate the hell out of me, because those should be 6 points. But anyway, the best on ground we've got here
we digress.
Is his last quarter waxing, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful to behold.
So I think it was like he was on 70 or something at 3/4 time, and he's ended up with a 116. Am I right?
116 with a late adjustment as well.
But there was no chance of him getting there, and in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, he just got 3 of the cheapest +6s you've ever seen anyone get.
Bang.
No influence on the game whatsoever, and we were just riding him home.
It was literally the last 2 minutes. He ended up with 48 points in that last quarter, so it was going to be a pretty bad score. I've given up a 114 from Bonts to chase a unique captain, and it was all worth it. 2 points improvement. So let's go. But yes, that was a bit of fun mixed in with a bit of horror there as well.
And for this game, we were sort of noting it as we went, but it just felt like it was so high scoring. There was such a fast paced game style that it didn't allow those contested guys like a Laird like a Keys to get involved. So that was just
the second half was obviously much more their pace. So
bit better. Last game. What do we got?
Freo versus Carlton. Explain yourself for this best on ground you've got here.
Look, I just thought, he's due. I thought I've potted this bloke all year.
We beat him up too much.
Yeah, I traded him out, but Hayden Young looked like he actually wanted the pill a little bit when we were watching that game. I wish he had done that when he was in my team, the Ox Shorts, but he actually had a little bit of a crack. So Hayden Young, you can have the bog this game.
Okay, feeling sorry for the man. Just want to make up amends. I'm going to give the flog to, again, more coaches, Michael Voss and Sam Walsh here, because I don't know if you saw, but before this game, he was a forward. He was eligible to get forward status.
I saw this.
And Michael Voss went, stuff your fantasy teams, mate. He's playing in the guts for the most amount of times this season. Highest amount of CBAs this year, and didn't get the forward status. Still didn't put up a great score. 90 points is just what we're kind of getting from Sam Walsh these days. And so he's a mid only for the rest of the year. You're not going to get forward status, and now you're just kind of stuck with this underperforming premium, which I'm sure owners wouldn't want to have dealt with. So for both of those guys, they get the flog.
Definitely a little bit rough. Now, let's quickly have a bit of a chat about the Content Creators Cup. Before we do, shout out to Guestie's company there, Infinite Wealth, who are offering the course to financial freedom over there at the website. You can see there on the screen. It's infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy. Make sure that you put in that /AFL Fantasy, because that's free. That's the one that unlocks the free program. So it's a great program, and the fact that he's got that initiative up and running and there's money involved for charity as well is a credit to him. So how'd you go this week?
Got another dub this week, so still chugging along, still sitting on the top of that leaderboard.
Mate, it's getting closer and closer to you actually deciding a charity to give some money to.
We've still got the finals to come up, so I dare say I've probably locked in a spot in the 8 in there, because I think it is not too far away that the finals actually start, but we'll sort of see how the seeding works out. But I got a victory over our good friend, just blank out, Kyle Holmes, who I messaged him at the start of the week. He and I have a very scarily similar team. We actually only had 3 uniques in this matchup. It just happened to be that my uniques outscored him by, not to name and shame the great man, but nearly 200 points, because he obviously had I think he was one of the unfortunate souls who traded in a Sheasel and the Johnson, who got subbed out in that last game as well. So a couple of unlucky breaks there. But yeah, very similar teams, which I thought was pretty funny. Who was your matchup? How did you go? You broke the tie, the tie streak.
Yeah, I got the dub against Nath. there, the Ober mullets. So
Yes.
the Oxongs are still trending in the right direction.
Yeah,
We gave a fair lead up, but we're going in the right direction. So we'll see how it all pans out.
Mate, number 11 on the overall there. How far are you away from the 8? Oh, you're only one game out of the 8, so you still got chance to make the
Mate.
finals. So
We'll see how we go. We'll keep hiking the comeback trail.
let's do it. All right.
Beautiful. What are we talking now? We got some news from the weekend.
Yeah, just talking some news. Little bit of news for us to talk about here. So we'll start off by just going through a few injuries and things like that, and also talking about some shifts in roles. So obviously on that Thursday night, we had a couple of injuries with Jake Lloyd going down with a hammy. Unfortunately, there are a few people, notably Matty Mottram right at the top there, have him in their side, and spare a thought for the old Matty Mottram.
Poor Matty, yeah.
His luck's ran out from last year, winning the car and everything.
I'll still swap ranks with him if he's not.
if he's feeling down in the dumps.
Yeah, if he wants me to take the keys to the Hilux, I'll be happy to.
I wouldn't put it past him to still come back and make something of this season.
Absolutely.
And definitely challenge for that top spot. But he's obviously gone down. If you have him, he is a must trade because obviously I think he will miss a bit of time. Probably a good excuse to trade underperforming premium anyway. Angus Sheldrick had a bit of an ankle in that game. I think he sort of played out the game a little bit, but obviously with them already using the sub on Jake Lloyd, they didn't want to sub him completely. But I think pretty much sat the entire last quarter.
And he already plays low time on ground. I know his break even.
Is he at risk of being dropped this
week?
week?
I mean,
He'd been going so well up until that point.
It would be hard to drop a guy that you barely play on the ground and then you bench for the entire last quarter. But I think that his break even's 32. If he's your ticket to getting your
you can now trade him.
Yeah, that's it. Like if you've got another way to maybe get your last sort of rookie mid-pricer off the field or whatever, and you can do that and you can keep him. Like he's not the worst rookie to keep if he's selected, but if he's your ticket to getting that team full of premiums, then I don't mind trading him.
Yeah, I think the same. I think that he definitely can go. He's probably one of the last rookies I'd want to trade because, again, just he has that first game of the round this round, so you can still have a look at his score, and we've obviously seen his ability to go big at times. So
we're starting to see also, and I think it's pretty indicative of this time of year, but like a steady trickle of just those kind of half-decent rookies coming through. Like a few of the West Coast guys look like they might tick over in value over the coming weeks. And then I think
there's a few guys just sort of like slow burning.
Yeah, so I think there's some guys to go down to for your bench.
Absolutely. A couple of roll things here. Jack McRae, who I traded in last week as a bit of a unique play, and just trying to run that Bulldogs gauntlet here with the Bevo at the helm. But yeah, back down to 0 CBAs after I think he had 60% the week before, and his just CBAs seem to be all over the place. What I think's happened here, and I did have it as a slight flag going into the rounds, but sort of pulled the trigger anyway. Ed Richards came back into the side, and then Caleb Daniel has moved back into the mids, and obviously McRae has then made way and gone forward a little bit there. So whether that's something that will continue to be, like if he's going to be 0 CBAs moving forward, or if he's going to fluctuate week to week, I'm not too sure. But yeah, again, just something to make note of.
Shows the highs and lows of fantasy. How I was in the hospital looking at his score, and I thought, "Fuck, Mitch has got one up on me here," because he was scoring really well at the start.
Scored at the start,
and then it petered off, and I was like, "Oh, that's not too bad." And then I traded in Cadilio, and so I was fucking up on my high horse. Here we go.
That's right.
It just shows.
It's
we all have that temptation to judge them after 1 week too, don't we?
That's right.
Like,
1 week, 1 quarter. Like I think some people said, "Oh, mate, you're going to win a hat after that first quarter," and then I'm like, "Oh shit, I should have gone Cogs and gone with the crowd." So yeah, it's a roller coaster AFL fantasy, but yes, it does look like he's going to remain in that half forward role, at least for the near future. So make a note of that. And we mentioned before the Finn Callahan, Finn McGuinness.
We do that all the time, eh?
Too many Finns in that team. Finn McGuinness tag, he's back.
They're not even in the same team.
Oh, true. He played the team that, whatever. Anyway, McGuinness, he's tagging. He's tagging again, and we obviously scared us all in the preseason with the Nick Dacos thing. He's finally come and done it in round 17, but it is definitely something for us to flag if they're going to do that moving forward, because obviously when you hold Josh Kelly to 6 disposals in a game, you're a bloody good tagger.
Yeah, it's tough, but because even the thought of a tag can kill you as well. Because, for example, we talked about this. Zach Merritt would have been a lot higher on the big boys had
not
for the risk of, does he get some attention from Keys.
This to me is just a good reminder that I know there's a popular narrative out there that like tags are overblown and we jump at shadows, but I still...
If you get hit with a good one.
If you get hit with a good one, it will fuck your weekend up.
Josh,
it will absolutely fuck your weekend up.
If you had a C on Josh Kelly or something,
legit, you would go into this matchup. Hawthorn, okay,
true.
Easy matchup, cool. Let's go in, okay. Put a C on Josh Kelly or put a C, like let's say he went to, I know Tom Green made a meal of himself anyway, but say you went with a Tom Green and then he gets tagged or something like that. Like, these things can really mess you up. So I'm still nervous about going into games where there could be a potential tag, just more so as well because we've got so many other options. You know? Just go somewhere else that's a bit safer on the 1 or 2 or 5% chance that your player is going to get clamped to a 30. That would just be that'd be a season killer. Right
That's
there.
a way you would have thrown something at my TV.
Yeah, and I would not apologise. So yes, just be mindful of that. And in that same game, Will Day's CBA is curious about this one because he's someone that we'll talk about when it comes to chopping block. But his CBAs were down a little bit. I wonder how this works with someone like a Sick Dog coming back into the side, whether that pushes him back more into the mids.
We'll dig into that, won't we?
Yeah, we'll see how that sort of goes. But his CBAs were down. And then Jack Steele, we sort of mentioned it before. I think the big thing for me here is the time on ground. 85% up from, I think he was mid-low 70s for a couple of weeks beforehand as well. So is this now at the point where you feel like he's good? Do you think he's healthy and he's fit? I think there was even a quote before the game saying he was starting to feel a little bit better as well.
He looked better. It's hard to make you call based off the 1 week of good scores because it's been, just ask people who've owned him for a few weeks. It's been pretty putrid. But I certainly don't mind it as a play. It probably depends your ranking as well. I don't know if I'd be sidewaysing a premium to him, like if you're in luxury position. But if you're looking to get your last guy off the field and you can get in a Jack Steele, that could put you ahead of the competition potentially. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I think so. I think he's definitely one of those guys that despite his price being cheap, he could easily...
he could match it.
He could... it's not crazy for me to say that he could be the number 1 scorer from here for the rest of the season.
That's what we thought at the start of the year.
Exactly.
Didn't we?
So it is someone we definitely have to keep an eye on and make note of. If I just look at his last 3 time on ground percentages, it's gone 68 to 76 to 85. There's a really nice positive trajectory there. That was off the back of his 60, which was his lowest score of the year against Richmond, where he was at 77%, which we all looked at him and went, this guy's cooked. He looks like a shell of himself. So they've obviously seen the same thing that we have, lowered his time on ground and slowly built it back up. So I think it's positive signs, and they do actually have a nice run coming up, does Steele. So positive signs there.
The tuk-tuk was back, but... Only 5 CBAs, low time on ground, which I mean, that's what we kind of expected. Yeah, his break even's still up in the 130s. So I'd be saying you're obviously waiting a week, see what else you get. Mm-hmm. The only thing I'll say is he has a St Kilda matchup this week. So but I don't think that would be enough to go into a guy who's coming off an injury. He's had low time on ground in his previous game, so he's been managed, and his break even's 130. You're still waiting on that.
And his was a pretty significant injury. Like he looked pretty good to me. Like he was running around, the Tuke of old and sort of looked in fine form to me from what I could see. And scoring, what did he have? A 97 with less than 70% game time is pretty bloody good. So
for me, it's like wait a week, and then if you're in a ranking position where you want to lean back and throw the Hail Mary, he'd be a potential premium guy that you could trade
100%. So definitely someone for us to monitor. Yeah. I just want to flag this one. I don't know if you know if it's going to be relevant at all, but Tom Stewart had 8 CBAs in that game, which to me just seems really, really random.
Did they coincide with the uptick in scoring at the end, or you're not sure?
That's a good question.
Neither of us watched this one. So
I didn't watch this one. And
someone whacked that in the comments and just
saw that was super random.
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter because I'd be interested to know whether the CBA uptick coincided with the scoring increase at the end, or whether the CBAs maybe were detrimental for his scoring at the start of the game.
No, so he had all 8 of his CBAs in the last quarter.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, but I'm pretty sure just listening to the Traders podcast today, that he junks it up really late there. So I don't know if the CBAs were
like
a
influence
result of his scoring improving.
Okay.
But yeah, that's when he got his midfield time, was at the very end.
Yeah, interesting.
Maybe they were just putting players like Dangerfield on ice and some of those other guys on the bench and when the game was already over. So I don't expect that really to carry over moving forward, but we'll sort of see. And you said you didn't see in the same game the Harry Sheasel role or anything like that?
I did not, unfortunately.
Okay, well, maybe if you guys did watch that game, drop them over in the comments what you saw from Harry Sheasel and if he was playing more of a forward role and how much that was on his heat map. Again, it didn't look like there was...
It's not a penis map again, is it?
No.
Don't go in. Don't pull up a bloody penis on your phone again, Mitch.
No. Oh, no, not quite.
Oh, there's two little sort of nads there, maybe.
Not quite.
You got to squint.
But he's 72% in the defensive half.
You're telling me that's not what your penis looks like?
Oh, okay. Have you had a child there, mate? But so tell us in the comment section below what you saw from Harry Sheasel if you did watch that game. But let's move on to the next segment here.
Jeez, I'm out. Just give me a sec. I'm
mate,
I'm out of touch.
Rusty.
Sorry, I'm out of touch.
Okay, chop and block. We mentioned before Jake Lloyd. He's got to go.
Yeah.
He's injured. And all rookies, just umbrella term now.
All rookies must go. It sounds like a flash sale.
Yeah, flash sale. They've got to go.
99% off.
Yeah, so all rookies must go. I think did you get your last rookie off field last week? Is that correct?
So no rookies last week, but I had I guess like Himmelberg and Darcy Cameron.
I mean, obviously not full best 22 players, but in terms of those rookie price guys, they're all off the ground for mine as well, with Callum Mills being the last guy to come in and replace the rookies. But I think if you're still rolling with a Sheldrick, Windhager, a Johnson, even the Brisbane guy, Wilmot or Ashcroft or any of those guys, I think need to go. Now, Ashcroft was a fine hold after the buys because he had those easy matchups.
Yeah.
But I think don't get comfortable with it. Don't get cute with it. Get him up there is my opinion there because he's still only averaging 84. You get up to a 110 mid. That's a 25-point increase.
And that's it. So, certainly don't get us wrong. Like, we're not saying that these guys have been... Even a guy like Wilmot has had his best patch of the season recently, but that doesn't mean to say that you hold him from here. If he's your ticket to get to a guy who can put up 120s for fun, you do that at this point.
You've got to do it, because you're just going to get left behind. So I think all rookies need to go as your number one priority. If you still have any rookies off your ground, you are upgrading them to best 22 players.
Yep.
The next little batch is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So I'm calling these guys like the non-best 22 premiums or mid-prices.
Yeah.
So I think the top of this list, if you still have him, if you've been an unfortunate owner of this player, Bailey Smith has to
cut the mullet.
mullet.
That's a phrase I've heard a little bit, but cut the mullet.
Cut the mullet. So I think he's a very obvious trade, and I think you would feel very good to trade him out of your team.
Yep.
Ben Hobbs, I think, is an easier trade target as well because we never sort of picked him to be a premium. So I think it's fairly comfortable to cut him.
Yep.
This next batch is where I find it a little bit harder to prioritize and rank them.
Okay.
On the sheet is how I've sort of ranked them, but I'll get your thoughts. So number one in this batch, I've got Darcy Cameron as a priority trade out. Harry Himmelberg, despite him being cheap, he's made a fair bit of money. I think he's got a very tough matchup this week. I think he can go if you get him someone well. Harry Sheasel is another player that I've got here. Hayden Young and Will Day. So there's 5 names there who are all either forward or defence there.
So to be clear for everyone as well, you're moving these guys on after the point that you've got all your
If you've got all your rookies off the field,
yeah,
then these are the next guys that I think need to go.
Yeah. So let's dig in a little bit deeper, and I want to do it selfishly as well because Darcy Cameron and Himmelberg are probably the 2 guys that I could move off this week and take them to pretty much whoever I want. Initially, my thoughts are Darcy Cameron, but I don't know if I've got a jaded opinion because since I bought in Cameron, he's sucked. Since I bought in Himmelberg, he's outperformed his price. So am I jaded there? Should I be looking to hold on to Cameron instead of Himmelberg?
Well, he's in the firing line for me. First of all, because I'm not sure how fit he is. Obviously, he started off that last game really well, had, I think, 57 or something in the first half, and then had like a 20-point second half because apparently he got a bit of a knock or a corky or something like that. So I'm wondering if he's going to be sore during the week and he might be a bit underdone. He is coming up against Fremantle this week, which on the season have been very tough to score against. They've been a little bit easier more recently. But I think some of that is waiting to the fact that the games that Sean Darcy wasn't there.
Yep.
Also waiting on a little bit of news with Luke Jackson. I'm not sure if he's going to be available this week, so sort of wait to see on that. But so he's got a tough matchup this week is something that I will flag. And last week was supposed to be an easier matchup against English, and he still didn't get it done. Harry Himmelberg, you mentioned there as well. If you can get them both to a premium, then I'd probably get rid of Himmelberg first.
Oh, okay, so you'd hold Cameron.
I've got Cameron ranked above him because his price is higher, and I think you could maybe get someone better for him. I guess it depends on like how your team is structured up, because Himmelberg's break even is still at 60, so his price is still going up. So in terms of like finishing your side, it will be easier to get your side finished by trading a Cameron first, because his price is going to start to come back down.
I think that's the way I'm leaning. And look, I think let's look at the last 2 weeks. Himmelberg's been doing everything right.
Yep.
Outperforming his price. Cameron's been volatile, injury. So
I think it's pretty clear to say that he's not best 22. He's not a top 6 forward.
Yeah, and I think doing it with getting rid of Cameron, I think pockets me like 100k that I can look at using next week as well.
He's only had 3 scores over 100 this year, and all 3 of them have been below 110. So whilst he's sold, the role is good, and we have seen him put up scores in the past. At this point of the season, we can't be patient with these kind of guys. So
yeah, and this is such an interesting time of year. We've talked about this, without the headsets on, is the fact that you're now at a time of year where
it's the most difficult time to trade.
You're trading out a guy and trading in a guy, and the guy you trade out, on any given week could outscore the guy you're trading in, and it becomes very tough. I think you get a lot of hindsight heroes.
So many hindsight
flied
heroes.
in on Twitter and all that as well. But you just got to like weigh out the facts as best you can. Go with your gut a little bit, and don't be too disappointed if it doesn't quite work out.
Yeah, and remember, don't judge a trade on the first week. It can be easy to pull the trigger and do that. But, and we will have to do that in a few weeks' time, because we will be focusing on 1 week. I still think we need to be keeping in mind there's still 7 weeks left. Yeah. There's still a decent amount of time left. But, I think, remember, it's not the first week that the trade is deemed successful or not. So I think that Darcy Cameron is probably higher priority for me. Harry Sheasel, I'm really interested to see on what the people say in the YouTube comments and how much he was playing forward, because if he was playing forward, I think if he's likely to continue playing more forward time, then he jumps above those guys, and I think he's got to go.
Yep.
If he is going to be defender, then he probably shouldn't be on this list at all, and because they've got actually a really good run coming up to North Melbourne, so. I think also I saw that Aaron Hall had an Achilles injury in the twos over the weekend, so less of a threat from that point of view. Jack Zeebles, obviously they're trying to rest him down the stretch of the season, but again, when you're capable of scoring 50s, he's still a rookie at the end of the day.
That's it. I think I'd be moving off him. That's my preference. Unless,
But again, say you have Cameron, Himmelberg, Sheasel in the one team. Like, who are you trading first?
After the weekend's probably Sheasel, but I want to know more about the role. So let's let some people do some digging, and they can let us know. Next bloke on the list you got is Hayden Young. Poor bloke's just been awarded the bog, and he's on the chopping block.
He's still on the chopping block.
Poor
I still
bastard.
think he's a guy that you do need to get rid of. He's down a little bit in terms of priorities, because obviously his price is no longer falling as much, but he is still someone that I do think eventually you're going to want to have to move on.
Yep.
Will Day I've also got in this kind of bracket here as well. He is a guy that's, again, not best 6 in his line, but has a good matchup this week up against North Melbourne. So I think if you're forced to hold, and I would probably be trading a Cameron, Himmelberg, those guys sort of ahead of a Will Day, just because of the weak matchup. He still has a nice role. He's still averaging 94 on the season. He's at least put up some ceiling scores, unlike those other guys this season. And then we've got a bunch of guys that maybe for most teams might be a bit early to trade, but if you're in a really luxurious position, you could look to start to move some of these guys on. Sam Walsh, Tom Green, and Ben Keys, I think, are all going to be probably a little bit further away from the top 8 than we would hope. Tom Green probably is the most interesting one. The reason he's in this list is probably more so the fact that he's so highly owned.
Yeah.
And he's underperforming. It could be a way of getting a leg up by getting rid of a popular player and replacing him with someone a bit more unique who could outscore him.
Yeah, it's a real sort of sneaky strategic one, and I actually don't mind it. Like over the last 4 weeks, and then he's had his bye in there as well. He's done more what I saw him or what I thought he would do at the start. Like we talked about.
This is why I haven't had him in my side the entire year, because this is more what I expected.
Yeah, and there's every chance now that we've talked about it. He goes
He's going
150
170. He's going 170. Book
so
it.
please hold. But it's been less popping out for marks. It's been just less involved in that
Handballs,
additional play
galore.
that outside of the contest kind of stuff. So I like the idea of maybe getting off him a little bit early. And so he's 863K. Again, you'd have to be in a really luxurious position to be looking at this, but there's some guys that are on that other trajectory that you could jump to, I reckon.
Do you go like a Tom Green down to a Jack Steele, or Tom Green down to a Callum Mills, bank some cash, maybe they outscore them for the rest of the year? Like there's some creative things you could do. Like if you told me that Jack Steele outscores Tom Green for the rest of the year, I would not be shocked at all.
No, and it's a lot of it for me is ranking dependent as well.
Yeah.
And I reckon you got to have some kahunas as well. But it could be one of those. It could be one of those trades where you look back and you go, "Hang on, like I got myself a car with that aggressive move, or I got myself a hat with that aggressive move, depending on where you're ranked." So, be interested to see what people do now.
There will have to be some calls being made, and a lot of the top positions are pretty tightly, contested in terms of like a lot of the good players are popular.
Yep.
So it is hard to make ground up the top there, especially. So it is something that you definitely can consider. And those other two players, did you want to touch on them anymore? Or
the last bloke you got there, Keys. You think moving on Keys could unlock some success?
Man, I got to get those crickets, but but yes, no, it could. I don't like his role. It's worse than what it was a couple of weeks ago when I thought he was going to be like that centre bounce mid. It's better than it was at the first half of the season, but I still think it's probably a role that he's made a lot of cash at this point. But I still think he's probably going to be a step away from those top 6 mids. Again, he's at the bottom of this list because he's probably the lowest priority, but I do still think that at some point we're going to be locking the door and throwing away the keys.
Absolutely. Now,
you didn't like that one?
No, I just ignored it because I genuinely can't do two things at once. Like I'm looking at the run sheet, I'm going to the next thing, and I'm not listening to you. And you got to pick better times for your dad jokes,
sorry, mate. I'm sorry. I was trying to ride your coattails there with the keys thing.
Yeah, get your own gear.
Yeah, well, it was, but same sort of.
You can't just do a variation of my bit.
All right, let's move on to the next segment here.
What is the next segment?
Trade targets.
Okay, here we go.
Who are we getting in? Who are in our sights?
Well, I don't know why the screen's gone black when we do the transition thing. I got to work that out.
I don't know. It just doesn't like you. All right, let's go through each of the positions now. Bit of a pod flavour on this one.
Okay.
And again, I don't mean podcast. I'm talking points of difference. So we're at the end of the year. This is definitely the start of the time of the year we've got it now. If you're wanting to go up in ranks, you've got to grab guys who are lowly owned, because you're not going to move up by grabbing someone who's popularly owned unless you already have some good pods in your team. So in the defenders, let's spend a bit of time talking about this guy here, or as my number one target for defenders, James Sicily.
Well, this is something that I, again, selfishly want to pick your brains about on today's podcast, because I just in my head was like, Doherty, bringing in Doherty this week. But then when I remembered that the sick dog is back and barking this week, I thought, I'm ranked mid 3,000, so I'm not going to get a hat, I'm not going to get a car. Why don't I go to the 0% owned and just see what kind of a dint I can put in those top teams?
Let me read you out his next run here. He's got North Melbourne at Marvel, Richmond, St Kilda, Collingwood, Bulldogs.
I have to trade him in.
Melbourne and Freo. That is an unbelievably great run for defenders.
So based on the fact that he, before he got suspended, came out and said, yeah, I'm pretty much back in that loose role where I'm just going to kind of demand the football, plus that run, he's definitely the priority over Doherty this week, isn't he?
I would definitely say so. I think he's a high priority. He's much more unique.
Yeah.
He's shown ceiling scores. I don't love Doherty in that winger role compared to his halfback role, which he probably shows more of a ceiling, in my opinion. So I would definitely, if you don't have either, I'd be going the Sicily route if I was in that position.
If you were ranked in the top 100, would you still do that?
Yes, I think a lot of teams will be flocking to Sicily this week.
Yeah, okay.
I think it would be a very popular trade. Now, I want to play. So I love the trade. I think he's going to be a great trade-in target this week.
Yep.
I'm in the situation where I have to decide between getting in him or kind of covering up a player that's hurting me in Errol Goulden this week. The other thing about a James Sicily, which we should also mention, his break-even is 62 because he's coming off the back of a couple of big scores.
Dockeys
so he will start to come up in price.
Yep.
So he will shoot up close to that $1 million in a few weeks. So he will get more expensive and harder to trade in if that's something you're going to be worried about. So let's play the contrarian for Sicily, though.
Contrarian?
Well, yeah. So the flip side.
Yeah, no, I knew what it meant. I just thought it was good use of the word, mate.
Oh, okay. There's a little,
Yeah,
like
you try to dumb it down for me.
Now, he's had 3 weeks off. If, like, from a footy point of view, if you've had 3 weeks off, whether it's suspension or not, or injury, is that something that you're a bit rusty coming back?
But what he does, Sicily does a lot of great stuff, and there's a lot of intercept mark in there. There's a lot of good one-on-one body. But what he does to get his fantasy points, like,
it's cheap.
It's not cheap because he's a great distributor, but it's not something that
he's not
going
like
to need to get his
getting in a hard
touchback
ball,
or like leading patterns as a forward or anything like that.
Right.
It's like he's seeing the game from back there and he's just waxing.
Yeah.
That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think he's going to be okay.
He's going to be okay.
Unless the role changes. If he has to suddenly play more accountable, then we could all be, eating our words.
Is there a risk of that? Like, is there a risk of him coming back in? Like, we've seen him, like, obviously the last game, I think it was the game before the St Kilda game. He said, I've got my roll back or whatever. Comes out, smashes out a 165, misses a game, comes out, does another 130. But he's had games of 49, 78, 70 this season.
I don't think there's a risk of it against the opposition that they're playing in the next few weeks. And it's the end of the season. Like, I don't think they're going to say, Sicily, go and lock down.
But at the end of the season, is there a risk that they're giving that role to more of the kids?
Not giving the waxing role. I don't think. James Sicily doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's going to stand back and watch someone else wax.
I mean, he's the captain of the club. Like, I don't know. Like, he
still doesn't strike me as that kind of guy.
I agree.
You're playing devil's advocate.
I'm playing devil's advocate, and I
appreciate.
I think whilst because I know he's going to be I think he's one of the most popular trade-in targets for the round so far, and I expect a lot of the guys at the top to go straight there.
Okay.
There might be a play to zig when others are zagging, and go.
You're just justifying your Errol Gould move.
No, well, I'm talking it through because we're going to talk about some other defenders, which I think are other genuine options as well.
Yep.
That are other points of difference. And I think that Sicily, whilst he's 0% owned right now, I don't think he's going to be actually much of a pod this week because I think a lot of people are going to go in like Doherty was a couple of weeks ago. He was lowly owned, but then when you actually checked after that round, he was 60% in the top 1,000. So just to give a couple of stats, obviously he's 0% owned right now. The guy I'm talking about you could potentially take on a James Sicily with is Liam Duggan, who is quietly just putting up an incredible season. It doesn't sound as sexy.
It definitely doesn't sound sexy.
But he is currently just absolutely, putting up some great scores. 116, 113 in his last 2 games. He has a 69 in there, which obviously stinks. But before that, 137, 140, a couple other hundreds in there as well. And the West Coast Eagles, again, we're talking about good runs coming up. Richmond, Carlton, North Melbourne, Essendon, Freo, Bulldogs are all great matchups for defenders as well.
Sounds like you're digging Duggan.
I am digging Duggan. I think he's a good option. He's my number 2 target for defenders.
I reckon Mitch is just trying to convince everyone to not go to Sicily so you can bring your Gould and then get Sicily next week.
Look, I'll probably be getting Sicily at some point, but I want to give some love to Liam Duggan because I think he's a genuine option there. And I think whilst he is 2% owned of the top 1,000, 2% of the top 100, he will remain that low after this week. So a genuine pod.
Third defender on the list is the Doc. We already spoke about him, but I mean, you can't go wrong. You're trading in a top 6 defender there. And the last bloke on the list is a guy that I wish I'd started the season with, and I think most people probably would, but Luke Ryan is a thirsty boy back there as well.
He's a very thirsty boy, and he's got ceiling. And again, we're talking low ownership guys, 6% owned in the top 1,000, 6% of the top 100. When you've got ceiling, that's exactly what you want for a point of difference.
Yeah, definitely. He could be one of those guys that we talk about later in the year as like a one-off matchup, kind of like let's go for it.
Yeah, I've got him ranked last here just because I think his run is a little bit worse than those other guys.
Yeah.
And I think I've been kind of spruiking him up the last few weeks, and if you haven't jumped on, I don't know, you've kind of missed his big run, but I think that he's still potentially a guy that you could ride through. Let's talk some middies.
Let's talk the number one potential midi target, Poddish again.
Can I just say the mids here? I feel way less confident in the midfielders in terms of like my ranking order than I do the forwards and the defenders. These midfielders to me feel like more of a crapshoot.
Okay, well,
just off the top here.
We'll sort of talk about them in that way. So again, we're going with sort of a poddy flavour. These are guys that might get you a little bit of a leg up on the competition. And Jack Steele at the minute, 19% owned. Is that top 100?
Top 1,000 and 18% top 100.
Top 100. Okay, so look, we discussed it before. I don't think this week I've got plans. So it's not something I've considered hugely. I'm probably not brave enough to just dive straight into it off a week. But this is a guy that has just been monstrous when he's been on, and he showed that on the weekend. Yeah,
look, I love me some Jack Steele. I started with him in my team when he was priced at 110, so I think he can do great things when he's on. I still have a little bit of a concern there, but when you pump out a 140, obviously Callum Mills hasn't done that yet. And the other thing about Callum Mills, who's the number 2 guy here, another discounted option.
Yep.
What I don't think we've also factored enough is just the ascension of Errol Goulden and how much he takes off a Callum Mills, because last year Callum Mills was getting all of those little
cheap 45s.
Those little 45s, which I think Errol is now, snaking a lot of and potentially capping the ceiling on a Callum Mills. Whereas Jack Steele doesn't really have that guy who's taken that off him, I think, because Sinclair was there last year.
The thing with Callum Mills for me, and it feels a little bit less so this week, but when a lot of people, like when maybe we traded in Callum Mills, what was it? It was last week. Last week. The feeling there is like you're trading in a guy who could be a 115 guy, but if he's not, he's still unders on a 90, and you just ride him for a couple of weeks while you finish off the rest of your team, and then you might push Mills up to Steele whoever it may be.
Agreed. Yeah.
It didn't feel, barring the risk of a baby cow going on you. He felt pretty safe to outperform his price and be a guy that you could have there while you've rounded off the rest of your team.
Exactly, yeah. So I think if you've got like a rookie left in your mids and you can get up to a Steele or versus settling for a Mills, if that cash difference isn't the difference between you doing another upgrade somewhere else, I'd probably be going to Steele at this stage, just because I think obviously he's shown the ceiling. That time on ground is positive. He's probably got a better run moving forward than a Callum Mills as well. So I would go that way if I can afford both. But with all of these guys, I probably wouldn't be upgrading. Like we talked about those chopping block guys, not many of them were midfielders. So for a lot of teams, there are a lot of your worst players are in your forwards and your defense. A lot of midfielders, if you've got all the rookies off, are looking pretty solid. You're not really unhappy with a lot of them there.
Yeah,
besides maybe a Tom Green for some teams.
Yeah.
Number 3 here for mids, Darcy Parish. Give him a bit of a shout out again. Just getting it done for a lot of the season here. He is just displaying a really high floor at this stage. On the weekend, he put up another 120 plus score. So that's back-to-back 120. So in terms of sort of a fully priced point of difference, he is my favorite one of the lot. 8% in the top 1,000, 11% in the top 100. So very lowly owned there. He keeps getting it done.
I know I haven't followed this rule all year, but I think it was on our very first podcast we ever did. One of the things I wanted to do was pick players that I like to watch, and for some reason, Parish just doesn't fall into that category for me. That might not make me popular with Bombers fans, but he just kind of.
I can see that. I think I said at the start of the season he's not the typical type of player I normally would go for. Because he's not typically a huge tackler or anything like that. He relies on big possessions, but mate, he's getting big possessions at the moment.
And it's Poddish, so
it's working out for him. So yeah, I think he's good. Bontempelli is
who doesn't own Bont?
Well, not not everyone has Bont. Of all the big dog guys, 58% in the top 1,000, 62% in the top 1,000.
You're not
100.
fading Bont.
So if you wanted to be defensive whilst also still having a little bit of both ways,
Hedging.
Bont is probably your guy because there's no way I see him not being a top 8 mid for the rest of the season. I think he could potentially be the number 1 mid
Brownlow
for the rest of the
Bont.
season. So, I think he's definitely a good guy. And a couple of long shots at the end here. Adam Chera, who I don't know if we've mentioned on the podcast here before, he is getting it done recently, and he is 0% in the top 100, 1% in the top 1,000. So if you want a real roughie, Adam Chera could be your man.
If you've been on him since the start of the year, it is straight roller coaster. Like, listen to these scores. You go 89, 90, 82, 69. Is that an 85? And then you go 130, 137, 130. Then you drop a 62, followed by a 119. Back to 90, 111, 82, it's all over the shop.
Yeah. So he's had a few stinkers in there, but a lot of ceiling scores in there as well. So I don't think he's had a score between 90 and 110 really. It's either been sub 90 or over 110.
Massive.
So the guy, epitome of a bit of a high risk, high reward play. But look, if you want to just do something ballsy and something fun, and maybe you're a Blues fan, there is a world where it works out, but he's down the risk just because I don't necessarily believe in it. Christian Brachaka would have been higher earlier, but the role shift makes me a bit scared. I was very keen on him this time last week. This week, not so much, but he is also 26% top 1,000. So, but I'd probably go those other guys ahead of him now.
So let's look at some forwards. So your theme for these trade targets was point of difference players, and who's your first forward target?
Errol Goulden.
This is just absolute selfishness on this podcast. We should just talk about our teams and who we want to bring in.
Mate, well,
that's not. You obviously don't understand how pod works because 99% of people own him.
Well, this is the question I wanna. Let's use Errol Goulden as
a hypothetical guy.
Let's use him as this can be someone else that maybe you don't own someone who's very popular.
Unnamed
maybe you don't
player.
have Zach Merritt. Maybe you don't have Sam Doherty, who's now really popular in the top 100.
Yeah.
At what point do we need to just bury our heads in the sand and just continue to fade these guys? Or is there a point at which you go, okay, I just need to get these guys in so they stop hurting me? Is that going to move rank? Is that going to push you up? Or is what's the line? We've got 7 weeks left. If you're a guy like me who can't watch Errol Goulden, look, I'm conceding that I've fucked up there. I can get him in this week. Do I do that? And despite it not really achieving anything, does it just stop the bleeding there? And other points of my team can move me up in the ranks? Because obviously I moved up 40 spots this week despite not having him.
Yeah.
So the rest of my team must be doing something well.
I know it would feel weird because you're just matching, but you said you moved up 40 spots. I reckon you would have moved up more if you had Errol. And
hell yeah.
And you know what I mean? So it's almost, I feel like you're making the right move if you bring him in. He's so good to watch too. I know.
So terrible to watch.
I know that's got nothing to do with fantasy, but you can't bear it.
But the thing that would just absolutely kill me is if I bring him in this week and he sucks, and this is the one that would have been the week where I could have made up ground, and it'll happen. I swear to God, it'll happen. But I just don't. I can't see it happening now. Just he's not getting any CBAs. He's playing pure wing, but he's just that thirsty for the ball. The team looks for him. He plays in defense. I think he had a fucking kick out in the last game as well. Plays super high time on ground. He's matchup proof, anything. He just keeps getting it done. So, anyway, a little selfish part of the podcast there. Errol Goulden, or a super popular player that you don't have who's killing it. You can go and get that player. Number 2, I've got Jack McRae there ahead of Cogs. Do you think I'm crazy? Because I struggled with flip-flopping these two. I would have been much more confident last week, but the CBA drop is concerning.
Yeah, you're probably going to get a similar output from both of them over the course of the next 7 weeks, I would anticipate. But if you go against the role, and you go McRae, you could end up kicking yourself. You know, when we talk about it off air, go with what the research suggests, because then at least if it fucks up, you can sit back and think, well, I at least researched that well and I went with the statistics and stuff like that. Whereas if you just you ignore all that and go, oh, I'm having a blind swing, you'd be really pissed off if that doesn't come off.
Yeah. The thing
That's just my thoughts.
The thing that made my decision last week was that, and the stats look a little bit worse now after obviously a 90 versus a 135. But in their last 5, Jack McRae is averaging 104, and in his last 5, Stephen Coniglio is averaging 108. So, and that was, I think, flipped the other way around last week. It was probably it was more in McRae's favour.
Yep. And
that was despite McRae having a poorer role than a Cogs. So
you're looking for the upside if that role comes back.
If that role comes in, and, you know, game to game, Bevo could do anything. But if that role comes in, McRae probably presents more of that upside and ceiling. And so if you're looking to... Just throw some things around here, mate.
Sorry.
But if you are making to look that gain on the competition, then that's why I was... And he's obviously more unique than a Stephen Coniglio. So 20% top 1,000 versus 57% for Coniglio. That was sort of a bit of logic behind going McRae.
I think that's a fair point.
And I still think that could apply moving forward.
Yep.
Cogs, again, did play a different role. And his other 2 midfielders, the main midfielders in Kelly and Tom Green.
Well down.
Well, they didn't score at all. So you would think that that's not going to happen every week.
Yeah.
So his points probably come back down as a result. So
like
that's kind of my thinking. But you could flip a coin either way there. I guess depending on how many other points of difference you have in your side.
I think you're likely to get a pretty similar output.
And then Zach Butters I've got here at number 4. Just to, again, if you don't have him, I think you can definitely jump on him. He's cheaper than he was a couple of weeks ago. So.
Why you're almost sitting out a shot, mate. Do I stink?
You boxed me out.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, sorry. Come in close and give you a cuddle, mate.
I couldn't box out a wet paper bag. At the time.
So, yes. Anyone else you feel like we've forgotten that you think makes a good target this week? Or
I reckon we should answer some questions, hey? People will be asking about the targets in the questions.
Let's have a look here.
Did we get any questions?
Oh, hold on. I'm tagging something else that it's filling up my notifications. So let me... here we go. Luke Rogerson, post... we've got a few questions here. All right, let's go through them. So what is... Sorry, put a number on this.
Yep.
0 to 10. What is your confidence level in Steele after the weekend?
So 10 is like uber confident?
Yeah, I'm
0
like
is...
max uber confident.
That's how it works. I don't know why I had to ask that.
We'll flip it. Why not?
I just buy myself time.
Yeah.
My confidence level in Jack Steele is I'm going to say a 7. And it's higher than it would have been because I watched the game and I felt like he was moving.
Yeah.
Like the tackle numbers were important to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say somewhere between 7 and 8. But again, I'm just a bloke sitting in your spare room fucking talking shit. So
I'm an 8, confident that he's getting healthier. I'm a 7, confident that he's going to be the guy that we expect him to be, being a 110 plus guy. Yeah. There's still a little bit of that doubt in my mind in terms of like the St Kilda game style and game plan, which we did flag, I think, a few weeks ago. So I think he's going to be 105 plus. I don't know if he's going to be 110 plus, but again, at his price,
still a good trade.
It's still a good trade in, and he's obviously got huge upside.
Was that the question? Put a number on it.
Yeah. What's your, well, no, I added that in, but what's your level of confidence?
That's good from you, mate. A little bit of
just thinking on the fly.
Ad-lib stuff. Yeah, well done.
Bindi wants to know if the 2 points was worth it. And Bindi,
got him.
To you, I say absolutely. Absolutely worth it.
It was more the roller coaster that was worth it. Watching Mitch squirm was so good. I've got to record it at some point. I got to record you watching the footy because it's a good watch.
I had a good tweet a couple weeks ago actually about superstitions.
Yeah.
And I got some really good responses.
I'm not really superstitious. I'm just a little stitious.
Just a little stitious.
I stole that off The Office. Do you watch The Office?
No, I've watched bits and pieces, but it's never.
Is it off The Office? I think it's off The Office. Straight stolen.
All right, this Wazza has Day at F6 or D6. I'm thinking, and Ben Hobbs at M8. Should I upgrade Day and get on Sicily train while his break even is low, or should I upgrade Hobbs to an F6 and get a McRae, Daniel, or Cogs? This is a tough one.
Okay, so let's say Will Day goes 90. Sicily's every chance of going
105.
Yeah.
110.
And then you got Hobbs. What's he been going recently?
Hobbs is probably going 75, 80.
You're going to Cogs.
Look, 105.
I don't know whether I'm a little bit just kind of biased for the name, but I feel like Will Day's start to the season kind of earned him a little bit more
And if we talk about
brownie points for me.
to answer this question for you, Wazza, what I would say is if Sicily goes up another 40k,
Yeah.
will you be able to get him in next week?
Yeah, okay.
If he goes up 40k and you can't get him in next week, then get him in now.
Yeah. It's a good call.
If you can get him in next week, I'd probably move on Hobbs first and get either a McRae or a Cogs, and go that way, because I think Will Day, he's got North Melbourne. It's a great matchup for him too.
That's true. That's true.
And he's got the good run that Hawthorn does.
Yeah.
I've got a similar kind of question, and I think that's where I'm leaning at this stage.
You couldn't get... You
But
definitely...
I can probably get Sicily the next week, because I've got a few rookies to cash in.
It just... it might be unlikely, but just definitely check all your DPP stuff, because if you could trade Hobbs and maybe you can't get to Sicily through Hobbs.
Yeah.
There's too much of a price difference. Anyway, but I'd be probably trying to get in the sick dog as well.
Yeah, a lot of Sicily questions here, and on another angle here, are the Kangaroos a really good matchup for defenders, and in particular Sicily coming back this week? I can give you some actual data here based on the dfsaustralia.com site. So in their last 10 games for the designated kicker, North Melbourne are a very average matchup. So they're sort of, on average, players 0.96 points more than their average, and 44% of players get to their season average versus them. So it's a pretty average matchup for defenders.
Yeah.
For the designated kicker, that is, if he's taking kick-ins. So that's why I feel okay, at least if you can't get to him this week and you're tearing your team apart to get to him. I think that's the big take-home message. I don't want people to be tearing their team apart to get in Sicily this week, because I think that it's okay to wait a week, despite his break-even being as low as it is. Johnson and Sheldrick for Mills and Cooper Harvey plus 191k, or Johnson and Chesser for Mills and Cooper have no cash left over, but possible Sheldrick loop. Would you rather trade out Sheldrick and have the 191k, or trade out Chesser? What are your thoughts there? What's Chesser?
So using that money to get to who, sorry?
I think the trade-ins are the same, so it's Cooper and Mills, but he's just wondering whether or not he should save the cash and just have it sitting there, or if he should...
Oh, okay. Well, Sheldrick just watched the injury space there with the ankle that you mentioned as well. His break-even's still 30. Chess's break-even...
What did this guy say?
What's the
He
chess
said,
got?
have no cash left over, but possible Sheldrick loop. Oh, so he won't have any cash in the bank. So, Ted, who asked this question, what I would do is have a look at who else you've got to cash out in the next few weeks.
Yeah, okay.
So if you have, like, say, for example, you've got someone like, who are those Eagles guys?
Chesser.
The other guy, what's his name?
Hewitt.
If you've got a Hewitt on your side, if you've got someone else like a Windhager or something like that on your bench or something, you've got more players on your bench that you can cash out.
Yeah, true. Then
I would be... it looks like you've got some good cash generation. I'd probably prioritise having that loop with Sheldrick, at least having the look. If you don't, then I'd probably be trading Sheldrick out, having that cash. Chester's got a lower break even, probably more job security in terms of staying in that side and an Australian West Coast team. So that's how I would split it. But at the end of the day, it is a bit of a flip of a coin. Who goes first out of Darcy Cameron or Bailey Dale? Someone that we didn't mention before, who's a bit more of a unique player. What's Bailey Dale been doing? I haven't looked at him too closely.
We live in our own bubble, don't we?
So he's gone 78 and 96 the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Ed Richards came back into the side last week.
Who was it, Bailey Dale or who? Who goes first?
Darcy Cameron.
Oh,
They've got Sydney this week. I'd probably still go Cameron.
Yeah, I'd keep Dale. I'd keep Dale and go Cameron.
Yeah, I'd probably do the same thing. But if your upgrade was better on the Dale side, that might be one where I'd sort of side with whatever the better upgrade is, depending on who you're going to. Lads asks, to finish the team, do I go Mills and keep 250k to upgrade Primrose for Ubers, or does he go to Parrish and keep the likes of Day and Sheasel for a few more weeks? Very good question.
Going to, I'm assuming going to, was it Mills?
Mills
would allow him to then move on like a Sheasel next week potentially.
So we've got 250k cash. So I guess, yeah, he'll be able to do some
it wouldn't be this
upgrades
week.
next
So
week.
yeah, look, I think I'd almost be tempted to pocket that one. I know Parrish has been putting up 120s and Mills has kind of been in that 90 bracket, but the thought of then having to, surely you could still get Sheasel to someone half decent the following week without pocketing a heap of cash, couldn't you? Because you'd have someone else on the bench that you could drop down to generate cash next week.
He might be going down. I mean, yeah, again, it does sort of depend on like what rookies you've got on your bench here. If we just compare Mills to Parrish, right?
Yep.
What do you think they're averaging?
Like
compared to each other?
What have they?
Or what do you think from here they average from
point?
here? Like from Mills from now to the end of the season, what does he average? What does Parrish average from now to the end of the season?
Yeah, I think Mills maybe goes somewhere between like 97 and 100, and I think Parrish goes somewhere between 108 and 110, like in that range.
Yeah, okay. Well, in that instance, I probably would I'd go to Parrish then. If you believe that he's going to be outscoring him by 10 plus points.
I'm not Mills. We saw it again at fullback on the
that did suck
on the weekend from Mills.
That did suck.
And he was going well up until that point too.
I'll flip it back to you, lads. If you think that Mills is going to go 10 plus points, I'd probably just get the better player in. If you see them closer in being like a 5-point difference, then I'd probably go with the Mills option and save that cash and hopefully do something with it next week.
Mills is a tough one because if he gets played in the role we want him to get played in exclusively, he will go 110.
Yeah, so let's maybe go one more because we've got a few questions and I just realised we've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. Forwards for under 820,000. Keys doesn't feel like any value now, but maybe the best that he can get. That is a tough question. Let's look at some of these forwards. Under 820. Jeez, there isn't much there. Sheasel, he probably couldn't jump there now.
Go all the way to the Berg. Ride the iceberg.
Ride the Berg for a little bit longer. That would mean you've got, what, 300 or 200k left over.
Maybe you could do something about that next week.
Oh,
I don't.
It feels really tough.
Yeah, there's always got to be a scenario where you don't have to settle. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're feeling
I'm assuming this person's got one rookie left in his forward line.
And he's just going, okay, who's the best that I can get this rookie to? We'll go Himmelberg as like a halfway house pocket, 250k. Hopefully you get a 90 out of Himmelberg this week, and then you're one step closer next week, and you've got some cash generation going on your bench, and then next week you trade Berg up if you can.
Potentially, yeah. Look, right, I don't mind it. I just will flag that he's got a tough matchup this week against Adelaide, who have been restricted for defenders. But we see the Bombers put up some good scores against them this week, so you can't always sort of pencil that in. But he's definitely the most value of those guys, I would say. If you want to be really bold and double down, just go to Sheasel. If you think
be brave.
If you think he's going to be half back, but I don't know if I can confidently say that. But Keys probably is the best, but we talked about him as a trade-out target. I think he is close to maybe dropping a stinker.
But think of those guys as a halfway house. That's how we have to think of them.
Yeah.
It's you.
But if you're going to do a halfway house, you might as well go the cheapest one and the one that's still making cash, and that's Himmelberg.
Yeah, because we saw in that role early in the year, Keys could drop like a 40.
Yeah. So I'd probably agree with you then and go the Berg in that scenario.
Okay, we better go live our lives, hey, and let these people play with their fantasy teams.
Alrighty, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully, you guys have a good round coming up soon. We'll confirm it on social media, but hopefully have a live show back again this Friday. It's the last Thursday night game for the year coming up this week, Luke. So I think Sydney Swans versus someone, I think. Might be the Bulldogs, actually. So big game on the Thursday night. So we'll react to that one and also go through our big boys on the Friday as well. But until then, guys, we will catch you later. See ya.